Breaking news from the Capitol tonight. A single chain of court rulings has just rewritten the legal foundation of an entire nation. And no one saw it coming. For decades, people debated freedom, control, and the limits of government power. But what happened only 3 weeks ago has shattered that balance forever. Overnight, citizens found themselves staring at a completely different set of laws. Some call it liberation, others call it chaos. Whatever it is, it's history unfolding in real time. Now, stay with me, because the 10 new legal realities revealed by these courts could decide whether citizens wake up tomorrow freer than ever, or suddenly outside the law. And before we reach the #1 ruling that changes everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single update from this unfolding legal earthquake. Rule 10. The Interstate Freedom Doctrine. It detonated like a legal shockwave through every restrictive capital in the nation. For years, travelers had to memorize a patchwork of local laws just to move from one region to another without getting into trouble. But the High Court has now declared that when citizens travel between regions where their rights are recognized, those rights remain intact the entire way. Judges ruled that freedom of movement cannot depend on crossing invisible borders. Stopping for gas, eating in a diner, or spending the night at a hotel can no longer turn a law-abiding traveler into a suspect. Overnight, local agencies began emergency retraining sessions, learning that detaining lawful travelers now violates federal civil rights standards. One line in the opinion summed it up perfectly. A right that disappears at a border is no right at all. Rule 9. The Private Property Fortress. Rule number 9 fortified every citizen's doorstep. The Private Property Fortress Doctrine declares that personal property, homes, land, and small businesses cannot be treated as open fields for government inspection without the highest level of legal proof. For decades, warrantless compliance checks allowed inspectors to enter private premises on little more than suspicion. Those days are gone. The court held that ownership itself is never probable cause. From now on, officials need a properly issued warrant grounded in specific criminal evidence before they set foot on private land. Across the countryside, homeowners are posting new signs quoting the ruling's language. Without cause, you have no right of entry. Civil rights groups are calling it the biggest restoration of privacy in half a century. Rule 8. The Essential Components. Decision number 8 dropped like a thunderclap. The court finally addressed a question that had haunted legislators for years. Does a constitutional right protect only the object or everything that makes it functional? The essential components. Decision answered clearly. Rights cover the means necessary to exercise them. Manufacturers, retailers, and consumers watched the verdict scroll across news tickers. Within minutes, industry leaders began revising guidelines, realizing that accessories, supplies, and supporting materials now receive equal protection. Commentators called it the functional freedom ruling because it recognized that separating a tool from what makes it work is just another form of restriction. Economists predict a surge in commerce as obsolete limitations vanish overnight. Rule 7. The Business License Revolution. At number 7, the business license revolution overturned decades of bureaucratic dominance. For generations, small businesses lived under a cloud of uncertainty. Permits delayed, licenses revoked, livelihoods ruined by technicalities. The new ruling declares that legitimate commerce cannot be strangled by arbitrary standards. Agencies must now justify every denial with objective evidence of wrongdoing. Clerical errors no longer count as crimes. The court's opinion was blunt. Bureaucracy is not above the Constitution. Across the country, entrepreneurs are reopening shops they once shut down in frustration. For the first time, small-town merchants stand equal with corporate giants before the law. Rule 6. the digital privacy shield. Rule number 6 may be the most unexpected of them all: the digital privacy shield. Judges concluded that modern surveillance had quietly erased personal boundaries, and they decided to draw a new one. Governments may no longer collect digital data about lawful activities without a warrant. Tracking apps, online purchase logs, and social media monitoring programs must now pass constitutional scrutiny. The opinion warned that when technology allows the state to see everything, freedom fades into fear. Since the verdict, agencies have been scrambling to rewrite protocols. Citizens, meanwhile, are reclaiming a sense of anonymity they thought was gone forever. One analyst called it the return of digital dignity. Rule 5. The Equal Access Mandate. Halfway down the list, rule number 5, the Equal Access Mandate, destroyed the patchwork of licensing inequality that divided citizens into favored and restricted classes. The court ruled that any system granting officials discretion to delay or deny lawful access to a right is unconstitutional on its face. From now on, applications for any constitutionally protected activity must be processed within 30 days, and fees must remain reasonable. In the majority's words, a right delayed is a right denied. 12 regional governments immediately suspended their old licensing programs to avoid contempt of court. It was a clean, unmistakable message. Freedom cannot depend on paperwork. Rule 4. The Registration Destruction Order. Rule number 4 stunned observers worldwide. The Registration Destruction Order commanded government agencies to erase decades of citizen databases that had quietly evolved into tracking systems. Lawmakers once promised those lists were for safety and record-keeping. But the court decided otherwise, ruling that centralized registries of lawful citizens constitute forbidden surveillance. Within hours, agencies began dismantling servers under judicial supervision. Legal experts say it's the first time in history that a government has been ordered to delete its own data about its people. Privacy advocates are celebrating, but critics warn that the loss of information could hamper future investigations. Whatever the outcome, the precedent is irreversible. Rule 3. The Property Seizure Safeguard Number 3 delivered what commentators called a tactical earthquake. The Property Seizure Safeguard abolishes pre-conviction confiscations of personal property. No longer can authorities take possessions on suspicion alone. The ruling establishes a new constitutional standard. Seizure requires not just suspicion, but formal charges and due process. Citizens who once saw belongings vanish under temporary investigations now have legal recourse to demand immediate return. The Chief Justice wrote, "The presumption of innocence means nothing if property can be punished before its owner is." Across the nation, legal departments are rewriting enforcement manuals, and citizens are learning words they never thought they'd say. You need a conviction first. Rule 2. The Accountability Hammer. At number 2 stands the Accountability Hammer, and its name fits. The court stripped away long-standing shields that once protected officials from personal responsibility when they violated constitutional rights. Under the new precedent, public employees who knowingly infringe established freedoms can be sued personally. No department budgets, no immunity clauses, just direct accountability. Police unions, regulators, and administrators are all holding emergency meetings, realizing that ignorance of the law is no defense when your job is to uphold it. The majority opinion ended with a single chilling sentence: "The badge confers duty, not privilege." Across talk shows and news panels, commentators agree. This one ruling may do more to restore trust between citizens and the state than any reform bill ever could. Rule 1. The Constitutional Autonomy Mandate. Finally, Rule number 1. The Constitutional Autonomy Mandate, the single most earth-shattering decision of the decade. The court declared that the fundamental rights listed in the nation's founding charter are self-executing and require no government permission to exercise. In plain language, if the Constitution says you have the right, you have it. Automatically. No license, no pre-approval, no bureaucratic blessing. The Chief Justice wrote, "The government is not the source of rights, but their guardian, and guardians cannot claim ownership over what they are sworn to protect." The statement ricocheted through every newsroom and parliament chamber. Within hours, half the nation celebrated in the streets, while the other half demanded immediate legislative action. But it was too late. The ink was dry, the precedent set. So, what happens next? The courts have spoken, but the future is uncertain. Will these 10 rulings usher in a new age of liberty or chaos no government can control? Will they empower citizens or overwhelm the systems meant to keep order? That's the warning, the question echoing tonight in every newsroom and living room alike. Because history shows that when freedom expands overnight, responsibility must grow just as fast. And here's the empowering part. Knowledge is protection. Knowing your rights, understanding the changes, and acting with awareness is how ordinary citizens become guardians of their own future. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and if you believe that awareness is the first defense against confusion, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Share this report with everyone who needs to understand what's happening. Because these legal earthquakes don't wait for the morning news. This isn't just a headline. It's the beginning of a constitutional revolution, and you're living in it.